Jackson, obviously a Phoenix Suns cast-off. He's going to come in with a huge chip on his shoulder and prove to be that guy on the wing next to Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. I think Valanciunas is in. He's not a young guy anymore, but I think he could be in for a pretty big year because there's a lot of minutes to go around in this rotation. I think from a fantasy basketball perspective, you might have a couple of sleepers on this team. But as the great Mark Cohn said, yeah, I've got a first-class ticket, but I'm blue as a boy can be because I'm walking in Memphis. And I think they have the lowest expectations in the West.
Well, I have two names for you, Jason, that I think are getting overlooked.
Elvis Presley?
First of all, we got Brandon Clark, who was the best player in Summer League, and a guy who just looks like he could fit right in. But I'm going to give you one more name, Jason, and it's a name people have slept on. This guy played awfully well in the FIBA World Cup and started to look like a real player. Bruno Caboclo, the guy who is known as being a year away from being a year away, or 2 years away from being 2 years away? Well, Jason, this might be the year. The former first-round pick is only 23 years old. He'll be turning 24 this month. That means he's about the same age as Dillon Brooks, and he finally started to show some signs last year, especially when he played with the Grizzlies. His three-point stroke look improved, and watching him play for Brazil, he looked like a different guy. He looked like he'd finally kind of found his footing, and I think Memphis is going to give him some minutes. I mean, at the end of last year, we watched him play. This was his last 5 games, Jason. He played 20 minutes, but then after that he goes 29, 39, 27, and 30 to finish off the season, and had some pretty big games. His last game of the season against the Warriors, he scored 21 points. Yes, it's against backups. I get it. But a couple games before that, in the most minutes he played, I believe, all season, against Dallas, he had 17 rebounds and 13 points. I think that's a guy to watch on this team who might finally do something with the opportunity. In Toronto, he was always kind of on the bench. He goes to Sacramento, obviously not much more there. Suddenly gets to Memphis, a team that's ready to give him some minutes. He looked like a bit of a different player, and then to watch him play so successfully in the FIBA World Cup, I think this might be a guy to watch. Again, he's only 23 going on 24 when the season starts. So I think he's a guy to look out for on this team, and they have a gaping hole at the small forward position. Kyle Anderson, not the answer, Jason. I think Bruno could be.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Morant and Jackson, I think the storyline is when, not if, when are they going to trade Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder? I think the only reason they hung on to both of those guys is because they want to use them as trade bait. We talked about the Rockets as a potential destination for Iggy. I know LeBron wants him in L.A. Jay Crowder's another guy with deep postseason run experience. So I think the Grizzlies were smart to hang on to these two guys, solid veteran leaders in this locker room. I think both of them will be playing elsewhere by February, and the Grizzlies will be the worst team in the Western Conference. They're building something, though. They got Clark, who I failed to even mention in the show notes, but he's going to be another solid rookie. You have Morant, who wants to be, one of the better point guards in the game coming into his rookie season, and Jaren Jackson building off a solid rookie year himself. So there's some pieces there. But you want to talk about the Mavericks being a team that's 1 year away? I think the Grizzlies are 2 to 3.
I completely agree, and for me, that means that the ceiling for this team is maybe 30 wins, 28, high 20s, maybe 30 wins. I'm hesitant to even say 30. I don't know if they can get there. They have no incentives. They're going to trade their best players, and if any of their other veterans kind of play well, there's a good chance they'll get traded too. I don't think this team's going to want to do much besides tank, lose some games, and get their young guys experience. So, Jason, do you agree? It's 30, maybe even lower than that, kind of the ceiling you see?
I want to say about 25. I think 25 is the ceiling here. The West is so good. The Grizzlies are not. They're going to be competitive, but they're going to be that young team that loses games and in 2-3 years they'll be winning. So I think 25 is generous because of how good the West is. There are a couple of really bad teams in the West. The East. The Grizzlies are clearly head and shoulders the worst team in the conference. So 25 wins, and then their floor, it's not rocket science. Last place in the conference and in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you could even go a step further and say they could be probably the second worst in the whole league, depending on how things shake out. There's a world in which the Knicks are trying to win a couple games, and the only team worse than them will be the Hornets, who, I mean, are just a train wreck. We'll get to them. But that really brings us to the over-under, which was surprisingly high here. It's 26.5, and I'm definitely taking the under here. I think hard to imagine them going over getting 27 or more wins this year. That's probably towards their peak.
Yeah, I am also going with the under 26.5. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer. Even if they hit their ceiling, the ceiling that I have for them, it's still the under. So get out your checkbook, kids, and make that wager.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm going to make this my best bet of the week for this division. I think the under for the Grizzlies might be easy money here. I mean, I think that there's going to be some teams who do not win many games. And when you look at how stacked this conference is, and the fact that in reality, I mean, we're looking at these teams thinking who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. The Grizzlies are really the only team in the Western Conference who simply do not want to win basketball games. The rest of the teams have at least some passing interest in being good. And when you look at the beginning of their schedule, there's a chance that they're going to be playing a bunch of playoff teams, and they could lose a bunch of games right off the bat and just decide this is not our year, and that could be it. I mean, the only teams they play in the first few games, I mean, you look, Jason, their schedule to start the year: at Miami, home against Chicago, home against Brooklyn, at the Lakers, home against Phoenix, home against the Rockets, home against Minnesota, at Orlando, against Dallas at home, and at San Antonio. I mean, they might only win one of those games, which is home against Phoenix. And I think even Phoenix might be a better team. They could start the season off, 0-10. And if that happens, they're going to be packing it in awfully early. And that's going to be the whole season, really, Jason. I mean, for them, I think there's a lot of teams in the West that are going to be going for it, and they're not one of them. And traditionally, those point guards struggle. So, folks, if you want to take your best bet from this week, maybe go on DraftKings, put a little money down. I think the Grizzlies under would be my pick.
Okay, I think that's solid. I'm going with I almost said Hornets, the Pelicans. I've been talking about them all summer. I'm a broken record at this point. I am so high on them. I think they're going to be awesome to watch. So my best bet for this week is definitely the Pelicans at 38.5. Take the over.
All right, and with that, guys, this one is also over, and we will talk to you next week. But before we go, Jason, we have to remind the people to subscribe, rate, and review.
5 stars, please. I have nothing punny to say. Just have a great week, everyone. And remember, tip your waitresses.